Hi.
Hi.
We are here.
Yes, at the lounge.
So just introduce
19th of
yourself.
September.
Then I'll introduce myself.
Okay. So my name is Victoria Thiga. I'm an author of Self-Sabotage. Very exciting. I wonder what our listeners think about this topic. Very provocative. You know, by the time you're reading this book, it means that you're becoming self-aware.
True.
So I am an author. That's my latest title that I have definitely added to my CV.
Yes.
Beyond that, I'm a mother of two. I love saying that because for me, it's a very big part and an influence in how I live my life.
Yes.
And why I even chose to become self-aware and, you know, get rid of some of the self-sabotaging habits that I have documented in this book. I won't talk about them because people need to buy the book.
Oh, they need to.
They need to buy. So beyond that, career-wise, I work a lot with women. I work in the humanitarian and development space, mainly with women. That's my training, but I also have a passion for it. Mentoring young women and helping them to move along life. Not work necessarily.
So for you, it's not work. It is
life.
Passion.
Yes, it's a passion for me. Because I love to see women say, you know, I can see with my milestones. I have seen where I've come from. And it seems obvious to you and me, probably because of the context that we have grown up in. I don't know where you have. I've just made a very big assumption. However, I work with marginalized and at-risk populations. And these are people who have not had the privilege of, you know, accessing education easily, accessing the opportunities in life easily. So just mentoring them and coming up with programs, co-creating, I will say, programs with them that can help them to move along the journey of life, to become better mothers, to contribute to the economy, and do so much more in life other than just, you know, live with, you know, she was here, she came, she left.
All right. Yeah. So today, for those who don't know, I'm Josephine Osumo, and we are here just to ask you. I want just to find out. You have walked this journey. You have written. You're finally published author. I usually say hallelujah.
Yeah, by then I should have said published author because I think everyone has a journal.
Yes, somewhere,
we are all
but they've not published. But you're a published author.
Yes.
And so today we are here just to launch the book, Self-Sabotage. And as you rightly said, anyone who's going to buy this book is not going to buy it for a light read.
Yes.
But I want to find out, what are your expectations for this launch, for today? What is it that you're expecting from this? What do you want to see happening? Yes. And we are not going, I might touch a bit on what you have written. I've read your chapter. Very interesting chapter, guys. In fact, if you haven't opened the book, buy the book, open it, read it. So we might touch on that. But what are your expectations? What are some of the things you're looking forward to see at this launch?
So at this launch, first of all, it's so exciting because we get to meet as all the 10 authors. We've been meeting here and there, but just that feeling of coming together to do a project. People who didn't know each other, you know, at the beginning of this year, and we have actually achieved something great. That already speaks something, you know. So launching and getting to this day for me is just an amazing experience. I have also invited my family majorly because they have been part of my life. Like, I cannot lie. Like, if I say if there's something I've said here and it is in this book, there are the people who have walked and seen, you know,
they might call you out on it if you're lying.
You know, yeah. So you actually invite those people who know you so well. And again, just to create the drive for the book and encourage as many women and men, by the way. I have sold a couple of copies already, and one of my friends, I can mention his name, he's called William. He actually told me, you know, I was buying this book for my wife because it's written by women for women, but I'm like, this is a leadership book. And I think you just echoed the same sentiments. And he was like, he feels like, you know, this is a book that every leader should be reading. You know, and necessarily, you know, leadership is not you sitting in the CEO position. That's a title. We are all leaders in our own respect. There's somewhere where we are offering guidance, and our insights, and from experience or from skill or from whatever or from whatever pool we draw that knowledge from. So leadership is not necessarily just a title. It is about the opportunity to guide somebody else who needs your support at that time. So creating an impact is something that I want to see today, just creating awareness about self-sabotage, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, I keep telling people, this is my time. I have broken up, not with a person, but with fear and shame. Documenting this here is literally
That was your breakup
this
letter.
is my breakup letter.
Breakup letter right there.
I decided I'm no longer, going to live in fear and shame, because everybody is walking a unique journey. We all go through these things, but none of us, sometimes we talk about it in whispers. Our failures, no one magnifies those.
True.
So it's kind of telling people, it's actually not a failure, it's a lesson learned, because you're here to turn your mess into a message,
So one, I've heard you want to network with your fellow authors.
Definitely.
You want to create an impact.
Yes.
You want to just be able, you want people to be able to understand that this book it might be by women,
Yes.
but it is not necessarily for women.
No, it's not.
And I'm going to believe that your hope is everyone who speaks today is going to speak into that. I understand you have a speech at some point.
Yes, I do.
Don't spill the beans. The people need to hear.
I will keep down the paper, and like our late President Kibaki, then I will now turn to the real script
and tell them. Because, but so when you were thinking about what you wanted to tell us today, what was your driving force? What was the one thing that you knew? If they forget everything else, this is the one thing that is going to make me, that I want them to get. What was that?
So, one, I did not want to repeat what I have written in the book. I wanted to bring out a new and a fresh message in the speech, which can be a book by itself, by the way, when I think about it.
Mr. Dus, I hope you're hearing.
But I think one of the things that I have learned through this journey, and not necessarily just during writing the book, but the journey of my life to a point where I have gotten now so confident, and I'm okay with even documenting my journey, is that I have learned to be gracious with myself. I have learned how to be gracious with myself. I am no longer ashamed of the missteps that I have done or had in life. I have learned to forgive myself and dust myself off and go. And not only being gracious with myself, but also grace from God. Because I'm a firm believer in faith. Because I think if I was the only one who was controlling my life, I would have probably died in like 2 minutes after I was born, probably. But because God is so gracious, He gives me opportunities to change and to correct, and He's so forgiving. So if God can forgive me, why can't I forgive myself? Why can't I have grace? So it's both ways: grace from God and grace from myself.
New subject: grace from God, grace for yourself. 3 things that we will pick up from you and possibly add that with what you're going to speak to us about today. But I want to close with this. Even as we are preparing to go in for the launch of the Self-Sabotage book. And just in case you do not know, this is Self-Sabotage loaded with insights from real life experiences, and it's breaking off self-limiting behaviors. One of the things that you wrote in your book, and I'm not sure if I can find it, but I know I put it down. The hardest part of change is admitting the role you have played in your own suffering. That is a sentence from your chapter.
Yes.
And I'm putting that in with just what you have just said right now. Having grace. Seeing, 1 is having grace. 2 is acknowledging the grace that God has given you. And 3, it's realizing that you actually have to break up with these people. So as you go in, put those 3 together and come up with one statement for the people who are just thinking, this is just a book launch, and dispel those ideas that it is just a book launch.
You know, I feel like you cannot really be gracious with yourself if you do not admit that you actually played a big, not even a small role, because I feel like we are very, very much in control and in charge of our own lives. We like pointing fingers, and I think that's something else that I've also documented in the book.
You have.
That we like, pointing outwards. It's that person's fault. My boss did not give me opportunities. But if you admit that, I have played a role in the circumstances around my life, and for sure sometimes we suffer because of the circumstances that we have created around our lives, but that point where you recognize that I played a role, I did not just lose that job easy. It wasn't their fault. There's something I did, even if it was just a minute. Even if you just spoke to that person in a tone that really
was not correct.
Was not correct. And it doesn't mean that maybe if you had done differently, the circumstances will have come differently. But when you recognize that, then you're more forgiving to yourself. Because you cannot forgive yourself if you're not truthful with yourself. Otherwise, you get into this rant where you keep blaming and keep blaming. And I think at some point you start realizing, oh, by the way, there's a pattern here, and you need to break those patterns. And I've talked about breaking patterns, breaking habits that we have, that have become part of us. So once that happens, then grace kicks in, because you tell yourself, by the way, I don't know what will have been the outcome of that conversation, but ilienda venye ilienda, so can we move on?
Forgive yourself.
Forgive yourself and move on, so that you don't sit and wallow in that space, of unforgiveness and even refusing. Because why I say God even gives you grace is because once you lose something, imagine He always opens another door. And sometimes I've even seen that in my life, where I lost something which I had held so tightly on. And I think this is something I've even mentioned in my book, that sometimes your plan B is God's plan A. So you see where God's grace comes in. Because He allowed you to play around with your life the way you want. And then He comes in and He tells you, let's turn this around. Let me now show you what I can do. I might preach. Let's stop there.
All right. So thank you so much for just taking the time. And what you have told me, we are going to network.
Yes.
We are going to be impacted, and we are going to see how we can move our lives forward. So as we go into the launch, I am going to look for those 3 things as we are launching.
Awesome.
And then we will meet later and just find out.
Yes.
Did it meet our expectations? Did it surpass our expectations?
Yes.
Thank you so much for just taking the time.
Josephine. And I want to encourage every viewer, just grab a copy. Zion Publishers, I think they have a very good objective.
They do.
Documenting African women's stories. And from our perspective, we don't have to go to the west or the east to search for, what women are like, what their lives are like, because here, you are a fellow woman. So the struggle.
And I'm African.
And you're African. And
so we know.
Ukitoka hapa lazima you go derobe and now become the mother to do everything manually,
True.
So I think documenting our stories as women and our experiences as African women is such a noble thing. So this for me was an answer to a call. I just want to say, as I complete my story, the inspiration behind this book is my daughter, who loves reading, and I saw her read a book I actually went with her into a bookstore, and I thought she'll buy a child's book, but she bought a book on Rosa Parks.
Wow.
And she's only 12. Amazing. So I felt very challenged, because when the publisher approached me, I was like, oh, okay, so if my daughter is reading this kind of stories, so I also need to write my story, so that she will one day read my book. Exactly. Maybe she knows me too well, so she doesn't need to read it right now. But perhaps another young woman.
Blessings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josephine.
Thank you so much. We will come back.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.